So I have a confession to make, and that is that I shoot videos on Nikon. I know, Nikon has been the laughingstock of the video creator world for a long time, and I get it. I had a Nikon DSLR D500 back in the day that would shoot, it would shoot video, it would shoot 1080, and I think it would even do 1080-60, but it didn't have autofocus in video mode. It would autofocus if you were holding down the button, but as soon as you let off, it didn't have like full-time autofocus. That was just silly. It's like that's a pretty important feature for people who shoot video. And then the Nikon Z6 came out. I think it was 2018, maybe 2019, and it was their first mirrorless camera, and it was kind of labeled as a camera that had good video specs. Could do photo as well, and decent photo, but it was really kind of labeled as like a video camera. Through the HDMI, if you had an Atomos Ninja, you could do ProRes 422 HQ. And then they announced InLog as well. They had a log profile. And then I think at some point they announced that you could record ProRes RAW into the Atomos Ninja. Pretty incredible when it came to video specs, but Nikon still just hasn't been able to establish themselves as a good video option when it comes to cameras. A couple years ago, Nikon acquired Red, the big cinema camera company that makes high quality cinema cameras that can shoot super high resolution, raw codecs. They're used all the time for TV shows, movies, that kind of stuff. And Nikon bought them. And I was like, okay, here we go. Let's see what product they come out with that incorporates the Red technology. And last week, Nikon announced the Nikon ZR. Now, disclaimer, I've never even seen this camera. I've not touched it. I've watched reviews on it. I'm excited to put a pre-order in and get it hopefully soon, but this is not a paid review. This is just me talking about what I've seen, the reactions to this camera. I'm filming here in a hotel room because that's kind of what you do. You have a big window, nice soft source, a clean background, right? And I had some thoughts on the Nikon ZR based on what people who have used it are saying about it. I think there's a lot of hype around it. People are pretty excited about the specs that it has. You can record 6K, Red, RAW. You can get 32-bit float audio through the microphone that it has on board, as well as through the 3.5mm jack on the side, as well as through a digital hot shoe. People are really excited about the specs of this camera. But there's been a thread of some complaints that I've seen that to me, I think people are wrong about. And let me explain why. One of the common threads that people have talked about when they list the things that they're disappointed in with this camera is the lack of mounting options. They compare it to the Sony FX3, which I will tell you was a game changer of a camera. When it came out, I think it's almost 4 years ago, it really did change the trajectory of small format cinema first cameras. And it had, I think, 3 mounting points on the top, 1 on the side, 1 or 2 on the bottom as well. And that's pretty incredible. Like the top handle that attached could actually screw down into these mounting points. But the FX3 came at a completely different price point as the Nikon ZR, by about double. That's been one of the common complaints. And as I've thought about it, I think, I don't think this was an oversight on Nikon's part. It's a pretty common thing to add rigging to a camera nowadays, whether it's a full-bodied cinema camera or a small mirrorless camera. When I go around, almost everybody that I see shooting video rigs out their cameras with a cage. Let me show you my setup currently. So this is still the Nikon Z6 that I bought 6 years ago at this point, maybe 7 years ago. And I've rigged it out to be a lot easier to use. And this is what I see everybody doing. They add a cage, they add a top handle, they add the monitor, they add a mounting bracket for the back for a V-mount battery so that they can power everything and not have to have multiple batteries. They use quick release plates. They use quick connectors on their tilting screens, all that kind of stuff. This is industry standard now. Everybody uses cages, everybody rigs them out, right? Why would you really need all those mounting points? Now, it's cool that Sony put those on there. I think maybe some people use them, whether you're shooting weddings and you want to have a really small profile setup, or maybe you're doing vlog content. But if you're a video professional filming, you need a lot of these tools on a daily basis. You need the monitor, you need a bigger battery so you can shoot for longer without having to swap out batteries all the time. You need a top handle to be able to hold it down low. maybe a side handle as well. There's several other things that I could add to this that would make it even easier to use with all the different cold shoe mounts all over this thing, or 1/4 or 3/8 inch threads that are all over it. You can add a whole lot more accessories and exactly where you want them, right? So I think it's just kind of silly to think that every camera now needs all these mounting points all over it. Chances are you're going to add a cage to it. You're going to use all the accessories that you have. A lot of these accessories now don't even use the 1/4 or 3/8 inch screws. We use NATO rails, we use Arca Swiss. Small Rig has their own Hawk Lock system now, so everything is quick release, quick snap in. You wouldn't be able to have all those options if you were just using a handful of threaded screw holes in your camera, right? So I think that point is just kind of mute. I don't think it makes much sense for that to be a holdup when you've got an incredible camera that has incredible video specs, the resolution that it records, the codec with a high bitrate RAW recording. So I think that's kind of frustrating to see this camera at this price point catching so much slack. I don't think this was an oversight on Nikon's part. I think that Nikon knows how professionals are going to use this camera, and they chose to just get rid of any fluff that would end up adding cost to the camera that wouldn't be utilized. I think of all the, the FX3, the 30, the FX2, all those cameras that have those extra mounting points that don't even get used because everybody just uses a cage and adds their own mounting points to it, right? It'd be cool. Maybe that camera could be cheaper if they didn't need those things because they know people are going to rig it out anyways. Let me just talk about some of the accessories that I know Nikon was planning on people using. That's, again, why I don't think this was an oversight. I think this was very intentional on their part. And I started to do some research. I dug into the photos that Nikon has released as a part of the press package for this. And as you can see, right out of the gate, they have a partnership. They've already, Small Rig has already developed a cage for this thing. This is the typical setup, Small Rig cage, top handle, the V-mount battery plate on the back so that you can power the camera and whatever other accessories you add to it. A lot of these companies are also, they know that people are going to need to use the tilt out screen, flip it to the side because they're using a monitor up on top, but they still need access to the menu system, or maybe they want it as a secondary monitor to be able to monitor audio levels or how much time's left on your card, all that kind of stuff. So they put it on the side, and they've even got maybe this little, this little system here to where it clips into place, and it's not just going to be sliding around or flipping out any further. Now, I want you to notice something on this picture as well as I zoom in here. A lot of people complained as well with the lack of mounting points. It only had a single 1/4 mounting point on the bottom of the camera for a tripod plate, and a mounting pin that was to the side, not in front or behind the 1/4 screw hole. And I got this a little bit because I was confused myself on why there wouldn't be any other mounting point on the camera. A lot of times in a cage, you want it to be secured to the bottom of it like a tripod plate would be, but you also want a second mounting point so that the camera can't rotate in the cage. Now they have the locating pinhole, and so a cage is probably going to have a little pin that would go up into that would keep it from rotating too much, but that's still, those 2 points are really close together, so you could still potentially get some yawing back and forth within the cage. And a lot of cameras, including my Z6, you can take out the piece that was for holding on straps or strap hooks, and you could screw in like an M5, or maybe it was a 1/4. You could screw that in there and you would get your second mounting point. And from all looks of things, it doesn't look like this camera had one of those screw locations. But as you can see from this picture as I zoomed in, this camera and this cage do have some sort of a locking mechanism where the strap mount is located. It says that right there that you can lock that down. If you tighten it down, it locks the camera in, right? So I'm not entirely sure how that works yet, but it looks like it maybe grabs onto the strap holder and tightens it down. Again, I think they've thought of all these things, and it's not going to be that much of an issue. With a little bit of engineering and machining and on a cage, no issue at all. It's secure within the cage. It's not going to rotate or flip around in there. Now, another thing that I noticed as a part of this picture that I was excited about, because I was thinking maybe we got some secret information here that hasn't been released yet. This V-mount mounting system has not been on the market. I have not seen this anywhere. It's a small rig system. It's the same one that everybody else is using right now that's got the Arca Swiss attachment on the bottom. It has the V-mount that can tilt back and forth on the back of it. But the difference in this picture that I can see is that this V-mount is a V-mount adapter, not just a V-mount clip. So this, you can see the power button there. I'm imagining on the other side you're going to get an extra DTAP port or maybe an extra USB-C port, and it would utilize the power adapter on the bottom of the V-mount battery, not just a DTAP that you'd then have to use a DTAP splitter or other things to be able to get multiple accessories powered up. But I've not seen this anywhere. It's got the V-mount, it's got the blue little release button there. You can see the Arca Swiss on the bottom, the little tilting knob here, but that's not been released. So I did a little digging and I found on B&H, it's not released yet, but it's coming soon. This is the V-mount battery interface system. So you can see the screen can attach to it, and it clamps down on it so that it's not going to move around. The fact that it is in this picture here with the 4-inch screen shows me that that can adjust up and down, because in here it's with a Sony, which is like a 2.5, maybe 3-inch screen. And I can see in there the part where that can slide up and down. So that's really exciting. And I'm super excited about this because it's not just a V-mount clip anymore. It's an actual V-mount interface to where it's going to receive power through the bottom of the V-mount battery. It's going to have an extra DTAP output on the side as well as USB-C. So it's going to just expand your ability to use your V-mount batteries even more. So as soon as I saw that, I got really excited. I'm hoping to pick this up as soon as it's released and use it with the Nikon ZR system. Here's another example of something that people were frustrated about, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. Here they've got some sort of an adapter that goes into the hot shoe on the top of the camera, and then it turns it to a NATO rail system, so you can mount your top handle that uses NATO rail rather than needing a mounting point up there. And a piece of equipment like that is not going to be that expensive. And again, it makes it to where you can use the things that you already have. You're not going to have a handle that's just for this camera. You can move it around even. You might want to use that handle on a different NATO rail on your cage. Here's another example where they have this top handle sliding into the hot shoe, and then it's got a knob here to tighten down so that it won't slide back out, right? Another thing that they talked about with this camera that I'm really excited for is the digital hot shoe on top. So this can be used as an audio interface. I use the Hollyland Lark Max 2 system that you can get an interface for and have it go directly to a Sony camera or maybe Canon as well, rather than using the 1/8-inch cable down into the microphone input. It'll just do it right through the hot shoe. You don't have to have any extra cables. And I was like, surely they'll come out with that on this Nikon ZR since it has a digital hot shoe. And sure enough, here's a release photo that they showed of a Tascam unit that's an XLR interface. This isn't an audio recorder, it's just an interface, right? To my knowledge, one didn't exist for Nikon, right? But I did some digging, and again, you can see here it does, that it's going to use the digital interface because there's nothing plugged into the microphone input on the camera. That top interface gets XLR microphone inputs, gets into the camera through a digital interface. I looked it up, sure enough, it's been announced. You can't buy it yet, but the Tascam audio interface will have an option to work with the Nikon ZR. And we'll get 32-bit audio. It'll power your condenser microphones through the camera's digital interface. Something that's going to be really exciting is to be able to use with this camera, and you don't need a proprietary top handle for this. You can use this system, right? So all in all, I think that maybe some of the complaints were a little bit unwarranted. I don't think that Nikon just didn't think about extra mounting points or didn't think about a bigger grip. That was another thing that kind of people complained about. These cages are going to have a bigger grip system. So you have to remember, this camera technology has come a long way. It is crazy the specs that you can get out of these cameras nowadays at a price point of $2,200. That's half the price of the Sony FX3, half the price of the Canon C50, which was announced on the same day as this Nikon ZR. And I think that they know that professionals are going to use this camera. They're going to rig it out just like they do with any other system. And they just didn't put extra stuff into it that really isn't that necessary. So this is a camera that I'm really excited about. I hope that Nikon does get some more respect and some clout in the video space. It seems like a lot of people are really excited about this, even people that probably made fun of Nikon in the past. They're actually considering maybe trying this camera out. I hope there will be even more options for the Nikon Red universe now that they've come together and they're creating amazing products that utilize both of their strengths. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I hope this has been helpful.